Hello and welcome. My name is David and I'm going to be breaking down and overreacting to the biggest games from Week 9 of the NFL. And as a disclaimer, these are overreactions, not predictions, so they can't be wrong. If you like what you see, be sure to hit the subscribe button and follow Lingo Sports on Instagram. So let's start off with the biggest game of Sunday with number 5. The Bucs need to cut Antonio Brown. Like, right now. Here's a fancy stat for all you nerds. In games that Antonio Brown has played with the Bucs, they're 0-1 with a minus 35 point differential. In games that Antonio Brown hasn't played with the Bucs, they're 6-2 with a plus 82 point differential. Now, obviously their stinker against the Saints was a complete team effort. Brady was awful. The corners looked lost against the Saints receivers, and on the few chances they did have, they couldn't capitalize. So, it would be unfair to pin this loss on AB. But for a team that was really starting to click, bringing in a guy like him is like taking a flamethrower and setting fire to your locker room. Brown finished the game with 3 catches for 31 yards, but that shouldn't come as a surprise. The last time he actually looked like an elite wide receiver was 2 years ago. And if you remember why he's been out of the game for so long, it makes no sense for any team to employ him in this day and age. The man is a certified sociopath. He needs a translator to get people to understand what he says on Twitter. Cam Newton doesn't even need one, and he tweets in hieroglyphics. And how bad does it look on the coaching staff that the whole reason he got brought in was because he's Brady's buddy? Bruce Arians made it very clear in the past that he would never consider signing AB, so having him there now is a clear sign that he's being overruled by his own players. He tries his best to act like he's this changed man, wearing a TB12 hat to his press conference and saying he's found Jesus, but the game was in a better place without you in it. If Bruce Arians wants to retake control of his locker room and send a message, the best thing he can do is to cut AB's ass. Number 4. Dalvin Cook is the best running back in the NFL. I know. Derrick Henry basically took the Titans to the championship game by himself, and he tossed a 190-pound Josh Norman like it was nothing. But Cook's numbers this year are insane. He just suffered a groin injury, but since coming back, he's had 6 touchdowns. In 2 games. He's ran for over 100 yards in 4 of his 7 games this year and has had 4 multi-touchdown games. Seriously, this man cannot stop scoring touchdowns. Seeing Cook and Henry being this dominant at the same time brings me back to 2015 when they were both tearing it up in college.
They're doing, preserve that timeout.
1st and 10, moving up. Oh, he's got Cook and he's got...
Did no one even think to try and tackle him there? Huh. Never mind. I guess tackling him doesn't work either. I mean, this is just silly. Shrugs off that tackle like it's nothing, then outruns everybody on the field. If you're the defense, what the hell do you do about that? But despite this historic season from Cook, they're still just 3-5. Imagine how much better the Vikings' record would be if they even had semi-competent quarterback play. Somebody save Cook from Minnesota. Or at the very least from Kirk Cousins. Number 3. Tua Time is real. And it's spectacular. I admit, I wasn't on board with the Dolphins' decision to start Tua after he threw just 2 passes in mop-up duty against the Jets. And seeing Fitzpatrick's reaction to it only affirmed that for me. But man, am I ever glad I was wrong about this. The best argument for keeping Tua on the bench was that Fitzpatrick was playing well and had the Dolphins in a playoff position. But historically, Fitzpatrick has always started out strong then faded down the stretch. So by pulling him now, they're just being proactive. And since Tua started, the Dolphins have taken out 2 very good NFC teams to reaffirm their status as a playoff team this year. Now, it's obviously been a team effort. Tua barely had to do anything against the Rams because the defense played out of its mind and forced 4 turnovers. But in going up against another bright young stud in Kyler Murray, Tua wanted to prove he belonged, and boy did he ever. This was beautiful. The way he scrambled outside that threw it on the run. More of that, please. If he can throw deep like that consistently, the league is in trouble. Look at the way he escapes this pressure and gets the first down. This juke on Buda Baker was nasty. You can't teach that sort of agility. And then what does he do for an encore? I mean, this is just getting ridiculous. The Dolphins are showing teams how to tank the right way, and it's something their AFC East cousin the Jets can learn from. They traded away Minkah Fitzpatrick but got a solid foundation to build on in return. They had a bad record last year but clearly made the right coaching hire in Brian Flores. And now, in drafting Tua, they look to have their quarterback of the future. This team is making the playoffs. Number 2, The Chargers are now the choke artist kings, having snatched that illustrious title away from the Falcons. It's not just that the Falcons hung on to their huge lead against the Broncos the week after the Chargers let theirs slip away. It's how they keep losing. The Chargers are now 2-6 on the season, and all of their losses have been one-possession games. How is that fathomable? You can say that they need to fire Anthony Lynn, and I tend to agree since his play calling is way too conservative. But this is a systemic problem for the Chargers that won't go away for a while. People have said the same thing about the Falcons and love to bring up 28-3. At least they made it to the Super Bowl. The Chargers once lost a playoff game by 3 points in which their kicker missed 3 field goals. I didn't even know that was possible. But let's look at the ways that they've lost this year. In Herbert's rookie debut, they decided to punt on 4th and 1 in overtime to give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes. Great idea! Against the Panthers, Keenan Allen was wide open in the red zone, but it was broken up at the last second. Against the Bucs, they raced out to a 24-7 lead, then rolled over and died in the second half. Against the Saints, they blew another 17-point lead, but missed the winning field goal at the end of regulation before losing in overtime. And then there was that buzzer-beater loss to the Broncos the week before, after going up 24-3. Against the Raiders this week, the most they ever led by was 3, so at least they didn't have to put their fans through that trauma again. But the game came down to one last drive at the Raiders' goal line, and wouldn't you know it, they had a great chance to win it. Oh, if only Mike Williams had held on to it. But they've got another shot, and this time it's Parham who has it, and... Are you kidding me? He dropped it too? 2 straight plays in which the receiver had it all the way and then dropped it. My goodness, the Chargers just keep inventing new ways to lose. And number 1, Russ just lost the MVP. Or at the very least, he's lost his stranglehold on the MVP race. The Seahawks are going to dissect this one on film and try to figure out where it went wrong. But the early returns do not look good. To be clear, the Seahawks are still a very good team, and Wilson is the main reason behind that. He still leads the league in passing touchdowns by a pretty healthy margin. But in both of their losses on the year, Russ has turned in a stinker. Against the Cardinals, he equaled his interception total on the year when he threw 3 picks. Against the Bills, he threw 2 interceptions and lost 2 fumbles, and the Bills scored on each of their subsequent drives. Now, for anyone who doesn't watch the Bills regularly, their defense is that good, but some of these turnovers are totally on Russ. Like right here, he just threw it into a sea of blue jerseys when the better thing to do would have just been to throw it away, even though it was a 4th down. And here, it's almost as if this pass was intended for Trey White. It's important to put things in perspective. This Seahawks defense is awful, and they're not helping Wilson at all if they keep putting him behind the 8 ball. And of course, Russ can still bounce back from this. In 2014, when Rodgers won MVP, he too had a really bad game against the Bills towards the end of the season. It happens. If they win the NFC West, and Russ keeps playing the way he has in Seattle's wins, they'll be in good shape. But if he keeps struggling like this, while guys like Rodgers and Mahomes keep turning it on, it's safe to say this MVP race will be much closer than it seemed at the start of the season. But let's at least hope that Wilson finally gets his deserved vote for MVP this year. Alright, let's close things out by looking at the dumbest play of the week. This week's is brought to you by the NFC East, the gift that keeps on giving. Late in the game, it looks like the Giants are going to go for it on 4th down. Except they change their mind and bring on their punt team. All of this without taking a timeout. And now Washington sees this and thinks, oh shit, we've got to bring out our special teams unit too. Look at this guy hauling ass back to the sideline. So while they're scrambling to switch their guys out, the Giants go ahead and execute their punt. That travels a whopping 20 yards. And yet somehow Washington still lost this game because they turned it over 5 times. God, I love this stupid division.